Welcome YouTube. In this video I'm going to explain why you can't just Google Translate your essay because you forgot to do it and expect your modern foreign language teacher to not notice that you in fact Google translated your homework. In this video I will be making references to the Spanish, French, German, Dutch and Japanese languages as a reference to explain why this is. Now, first of all, we'll start with most common error that Google Translate outputs with the Spanish, French, and I do believe Italian languages. And that would be the indirect object pronouns. To explain those to maybe classes that haven't done it yet or people that simply couldn't be bothered to pay attention, that boils down to it. That's right, it. Not a complicated word just to say it, right? Anyway, in English we only have one word, it. Now, Spanish, French, and like I think Italian, there are multiple depending on the gender of the object. For example, in Spanish we have lo, la, los, and las. To the singular in English, it. Confusing, right? Well, not really. But to Google Translate this is a really confusing matter because Google Translate doesn't have context. So for example, you wanted to say, we have homework. Whoopsie daisy. And in the next line you said, I have to do it. Google Translate isn't going to give you any kind of reputable translation here. You see, this is where it gets bad. Google Translate has made two errors. This, la pareja, which is a cho, feminine, and then this. It has placed the direct object pronoun on the end of the infinitive, hacer, as lo. This is a problem. I'll explain why now. You see, deberes, los deberes, your homework, or we'll simply use la tarea here just to make things easier on you, is feminine. Therefore, the direct object pronoun would actually be la. It should be tengo que hacer la. So when your Spanish teacher, or whoever it is, goes through your lovely essay that you think you spent so much time on that you just blocked in Google Translate, they'll see this and the face palming commences. And trust me, Spanish teachers, I know how this feels. I can really understand how this feels, you know, when the person sat next to me in Spanish class would have Google Translated her homework every time. Not fun. Anyway, to further emphasize this, I'm going to correct it. It should be tenemos los deberes, and I have to do it. Tengo que hacerlos. This is the same in French, and I do believe it's the same in Italian. But it certainly is true for Spanish and French. There is no quick way to cheat this because Google does not get the context. I don't know of any translator that actually does get the context. So, unfortunately, you're just going to have to learn them. Next, I'm going to focus on Japanese, primarily, because this is where I have the most problems. I've taught GCSE Japanese classes before and been incredibly dissatisfied with the occurrences. So let's change this to Nihongo. Now, as most of you will already know if you have studied Japanese, the syntax is not exactly the same as English. We can't just start swapping words around and have a complete sentence. That simply doesn't work. But what really does grind me, and I'm sure it absolutely grinds your language teacher's gears down to what appears to be a little pebble, would be this. Abomination. You're probably thinking, oh, what's wrong with that? Well, what's wrong with that? You are missing an apostrophe, that's what's wrong with that. In fact, Google Translate is simply going to translate that as im. Im. Because im is not a word. This is why your grammar is so important when learning another language. It's so important that you understand your own language before you start doing this. Now what it should translate to is watashi wa. But no, Google Translate won't even get that. It will return I'm. I'm. Really, I'm. There are several other abominations that Google Translate will come out with if you input simple English. I mean, now, I'm sure your Japanese teachers have done an absolutely lovely job of trying to drill into your head that once the subject of a sentence has been stated, it has been stated. You do not need to repeat it. In English, however, you do. For example, I am Bob, I am 15 years old, I like blue. Now, in English, I can't just cut out I am and I here. It doesn't work. It'd sound like a caveman. I am Bob, 15 years old, like blue. Doesn't work in English. However, this isn't the case in Japanese. So let's say this was part of your essay and you just bang this in Google Translate, which you really shouldn't be doing. You would get Watashi wa Bob desu. Watashi wa 15歳です. Watashi wa ao ga suki. There are so many things wrong with that. And I'm pretty sure your Japanese teacher is crossing his or her arms, or whatever gender they want to identify as. You don't even have to be human, I don't care. Crossing their arms, whacking their heads against the whiteboard, whatever it is, going, oh, I've known this for so long, I've tried to tell them, oh, it's okay, I'm going to do that for you. This is your problem. Watashi wa, watashi wa, watashi wa, watashi wa. You can't do this. You can't do this. It's not how it works. Okay? If you run around in Japan going watashi wa, watashi wa, watashi wa, people are just going to assume that you are a small child. Small children do this. That is your other problem. Ski. I'm sure your Japanese teachers were probably pointing at that and going, oh my goodness, is that a nat adjective without that or des? Yes, that is a nat adjective without that or des. So to conclude, you can't get away with using Google Translate to translate your homework. In fact, you should do something really clever. Now, this applies for French speakers and other languages, in the European languages and whatnot. Go straight here. This is what I've been using for all my Spanish, French and German coursework. A dictionary. Much better. You should know the grammar. Your teachers have probably spent so much hard time and effort trying to drill the grammar into you so you understand it, so you shouldn't need Google Translate to get the grammar for you. And for Japanese learners, I highly recommend going here. Jisho. This will even inflect the verbs for you, so will word reference. I mean, you shouldn't have to inflect them, you should know how to inflect them unless they are irregular, in which case, okay, inflect them all you want. Irregulars really suck. Anyway, that concludes this video. I really hope you take something away from this video and learn that language is a very complicated thing, and I don't think I'm ever going to see a day where Google Translate has a context button. In fact, that would be a marvellous day. I'm sure linguists everywhere are probably waiting in their rooms on their computer like me, and dreaming of a day when we finally have a context button.